wow, wow, oh wow. Okay, I said I was going to do a shoot to print session one day. This might be it. Have a look at that I've just got. Wow. Wow. That's exactly what I wanted. Have a look at it. I'm not going to waste time trying to find compositions, because this is the composition. This is exactly what I want. That sun just under the tree. Look at that. Live photography, eh? I wish YouTube would throw it out there a bit more. I would love to see more YouTubers doing live sessions. Yeah, look at that. Look at the reflections. Hello again. Today we're going to take a look at printing our images. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a very simple and effective way calibrating our monitor and editing our images for both social media and editing them for print. Okay, so two different things. Here I've got a white sheet of paper on my screen. In my hands I have a glossy piece of photo paper. If we hold them together, they're two completely different things. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to edit for social media first, get our photo looking nice. Look, if you're a professional photographer, probably don't even bother watching this video. Go and watch a video on color calibration, paper profiles, printer profiles. This isn't for you. This is for people that just want to get their photos off their phone, off their monitor, and have them printing very similar to what we're seeing here. Okay, now you might find this handy because these days we're going to calibrate it using a phone. Okay, phones straight out of the box, they're almost 100% color accurate. Okay, a lot of the phones, they don't give you options to change your contrast and your saturation and things like that because they're calibrated straight out of the box. This way it's simple. Okay, what we're going to do is edit our photos so they look great on social media, look great on the website, and then I'm going to show you how we can print them. And to back it up, at the end of this video, what I'm going to do, everything you see here, I'm going to print the image, and then I'll show you the image compared to how it looks on the screen. And I will guarantee you that my print will look exactly like it does on this screen. So hopefully you enjoy it. It's going to be a long video, but stick with it. The first part of it is the very basic calibrating our monitor, okay? And it's really easy. It is really easy these days. You don't need a calibration tool. Trust me, I've had them in the past. I've got a monitor over here that's calibrated. I will show you the difference between that monitor and my everyday monitor. So this is my everyday monitor. I do YouTube videos, play the occasional game. I do some work on this. It's not set up for print. It's set up for everyday use. And I will show you my calibrated monitor over here, and you're going to see that it's a lot duller. It's got nowhere near as much contrast, and it just looks flat. I don't use it anymore. That monitor, I have not used it for quite a while because I have a method here that works, and it works, and I don't have to worry about recalibrating every time I change my lights, recalibrating every couple of months. This method works, so stick with it. Like I said, it'll be a long one, so join in and enjoy the ride. Okay, so when it comes to calibrating our monitor without getting a spider or anything like that. Now, if you are a professional photographer, I do recommend calibrating your monitor just so you can see exactly what a calibrated monitor should look like. But for the 90% of people that just want to edit an image and print it out, this method is really good. The first thing we're going to have to do is I'm going to leave a link below to a website called Northlight Images. What he has on his website are reference images. So here's a reference image, and what I'm going to do is download it onto my phone, download it onto my monitor, and what we need to do to get our calibration working correctly, we want to check the brightness of our screen and have it about halfway. So don't have it all the way up, don't have it all the way down. You want it around about halfway. Okay, so if you can get your phone about halfway, that's going to be as close to calibrated as you can get, okay? Like I said, phones don't have color adjustments. If they do, just reset it to default, because out of the box, these things are color calibrated. You shouldn't be going in and messing with your colors. Okay, so now that we've got the photo on our phone, all we're going to do is go through each image individually and adjust our monitor settings until our monitor is looking like our phone. Okay, so go through each image, especially skin tones. Okay, we want to try and get these skin tones on our phone to match the skin tones on our monitor. Most important one is probably your black and whites. So if you can get those black and whites on your phone to match the screen, you'll probably find that one of them will have a tint. It'll be a green tint or a purple tint, might be a blue tint. Again, just adjust your monitor settings until your black and white images on your monitor or on your laptop look exactly like your phone. Like I said, these are color calibrated, okay? So I know when I look at a black and white image on my phone, it's black and white. Okay, when I first got this monitor, it did have a blue tint, and that's because the color temperature was on cool. Okay, so play around with your temperatures, find your settings in your monitor, and try and get your monitor looking like this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is edit our image. Now this isn't an editing session, so to speak. What I'm going to do is just do a very quick edit. I want to edit this so I can upload it to social media, put it on my website, and have it looking as nice as possible on the digital platform. That's how I'm going to upload it to social media. Okay. Now, when it comes time to print, remembering that our monitors are a lot brighter than the paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my print monitor. So bear with me for a second while I switch over. Okay, and this is what it looks like on my print monitor. So as you can see, a calibrated for print monitor, it's darker, okay? That's what it's going to look like if we print it. So rather than looking like this, it's going to look like this when we print it. So let me switch back to my other monitor, okay? And as you can see, everything's just brighter and a little bit more vibrant. That's how we want it to look on social media, okay? We want it to be colorful on social media. So now what we're going to do is, knowing that this is going to print darker, essentially what we're going to do is just brighten up the image. In both Photoshop and Lightroom, this is all I do. I come down to my tone curve, and I have a little formula. So if I grab this tone curve right in the middle, just lift it up a little bit. That's going to brighten the whole image. And I have a little formula. I actually key in 115 by 140. Okay, so straight away if we look at before and after, it's just brightened up the image. The other thing that I do is I grab my vibrance and I take that up to about 20. Okay, depending on the image, don't go too far. I do not touch saturation. I wouldn't go above 25. I think in this image it works fine because it's a bright and vibrant image. Okay, and finally we'll just add a little bit of sharpening. So this is the way I like to do it in Lightroom. If we come down to our detail tab, what I like to do is turn it up to about 70. Okay, turn our radius up to anywhere between 1.2 and 1.3. I take down my detail. I'm not a fan of the detail. And again, this is going to be personal preference. I just find when it comes to prints, I take the detail out of my image. And then what I'm going to do is if I hold my Alt key, or on a Mac an Option key, and then we're going to move this masking tool. And what we're doing is we're blacking out all the bits that we don't want sharpened. So everything that turns to black is not being sharpened. Okay, now this will just vary from image to image. So you know, personally, I do want the clouds to have a little bit of sharpening, but I don't really want it in the water, in the sky. So somewhere around about there looks good. And finally, the last thing we need to do is just have a very close look at our image to make sure that we haven't missed anything. So make sure we don't have any dust spots or we have anything that shouldn't be there. So what I do is I zoom in to 100%, and I'm just going to work my way around the image, just slowly looking for dust spots. Now, there is a way of looking for dust spots, but if they're not obvious, I don't bother, okay? Unless it's a really obvious dust spot, I'm not going to be too concerned with it. So I'm just kind of scanning the image, having a close look at it. And from memory, there was a dust spot on here, and once I see it, I will let you know. I think it was down in the water. Okay, so there it is there, right where my thumb, like in that circle. Now I'm just going to come up to my little remove tool. But yeah, just scan your image. If there's anything in there that you don't want, just remember when you print, it is going to amplify everything. You're going to see all of this in a print. Okay, so by zooming into 100%, that'll sort of give you a better idea of what it's going to look like when you print. So that's looking pretty good. So now the really important part. Now we've got to save this file so it's ready to be sent off for printing. Okay, so now we're ready to save the file. Now this is the really important part. So this is how 90% of people need to save their file. So we've got our image selected here. We're going to come up to File, Export. Okay, and we're just going to choose a folder where we want to save it. So you choose whatever folder you want. By default, it should just go back into the folder that you've created. Okay, if you want to create a new folder, like for example, go to your pictures folder, and you might want to just create a folder called Print. Okay, so then we're going to save it to our pictures folder in a new folder called Print. Okay, again, save it wherever you remember where you're going to put it. Now, to help remember where we're going to put it, what we're going to do is change our name. So if we go to File Naming, rename it. So now I know that this file that's saved is going to be my print ready file, not my one that I've created for social media. Okay, file settings, this is the really important one. Okay, JPEG, quality at 100. Make sure this box is not ticked. Do not tick this box here. Okay, because that will dumb down your image and resize it. Okay, we want the quality at 100%, we want the format as JPEG, and we want our color space as sRGB. Okay, again, I'm not going to explain the other options. There are better options, bigger files. Are you going to notice a difference when you put it on the wall? Absolutely not. If you print them side by side and you got a magnifying glass out, you might see a difference. Okay, it's not a big difference. It's not worth it. Unless you want to print your images wall size at a proper print lab, then consult your print lab on what file they prefer. Okay, for everyday use, JPEG, sRGB, and the only other one we're going to check is our image sizing. Do not resize to fit. Okay, make sure your resolution is on 300 pixels per inch. Okay, do not click pixels per centimeter. You want pixels per inch at 300, okay, and don't resize. And that's it. Then we're just going to hit export. And now that file is ready to be either put on a USB stick and sent to a printer or emailed off. Okay, it's not going to be too big that you can't email it. It's ready to print. Now, the better option and the option I use is in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is we'll head over to Photoshop and I'll show you how I do it in Photoshop, because we've got more options in Photoshop. We can set up our paper, we can crop, we can sharpen. The sharpening in Photoshop I think is a lot better than Lightroom. So let's head into Photoshop and I'll show you the way that I actually do it. Now, this is how I do my prints. So I don't do them through Lightroom. I do them through Photoshop. Photoshop just gives me better control. More importantly, the sharpening. I really like the sharpening in Photoshop. I just think it does a better job. Again, I've just done a very basic edit to this image, and it's one of those images I don't need to do much editing to it. Pretty much straight out of camera is where I want it. The next thing that I do is my sharpening. Now, if we come up to Filter, Sharpen, and Smart Sharpen. Smart Sharpen is by far and away my go-to sharpening method these days. It really is a smart sharpen. Now, by default, these should be your default settings and they're almost perfect. The only thing I do is I just bring my radius up to 1.2, 1.3, depending on the image. It is really good, especially for print. Just press OK, and that's my sharpening done. So now to brighten up the image, because like I said, this is how I'm going to upload it to social media. So I could save that now, upload it to social media, there's my photo. When it comes to printing, we want to just brighten it all up a bit because we know our print's going to come out dark. Okay, so this is basically the same way that I do it in Lightroom, just looks a bit different in Photoshop. So I don't do it through my Adobe Camera Raw part, I do it in Photoshop. And what I do is I come down to my adjustments, which are down here, bottom right hand corner, and we grab our curves adjustment, And exactly what we did in Lightroom, we're going to grab that curve, take it up, okay, and if we miss it, we're just going to type in 115 by 140. Okay, and that's my brightness level. Okay, I can close that now, and if we look at our before, there's my social media, there's my print version. Okay, and then finally I'm going to do another layer, and I'm just going to add vibrance. Okay, because as I mentioned in the Lightroom one, prints are going to be duller than what you see on your monitor. Okay, especially if you're calibrating to a phone, your phone saturation is going to be a little bit more colorful than a print. So to compensate for that, we're going to turn our vibrance up to about 25%. Okay, so then it's going to look extra vibrant on our monitor, but when we print it, the print will be a little bit duller. So adding that vibrance will get it closer to our screen. Okay, and that's it. Then we just go up to layer and flatten image. And now that's ready for print. Before I send it off to print, now this is another reason I use Photoshop, because I decide what sort of paper I want to print it on to start with. In this case, I'm going to print it in A3+. Okay, so now I'm going to create my paper. So what I do is I come up to File, and I'm going to create a new document. Okay, so in here, I've got a few presets. So I've got an A2 Adobe, just quickly, A2 Adobe, what that is, it's an Adobe RGB color space. So if I'm printing the image myself at home, my printer will print in the Adobe RGB color space. So that's what I use. Now I also have one in sRGB, which is the one if I'm going to send it off to be printed, that's the one I use to be sent off. Okay, so you'll find that most places online, even the shops that you go into, if you put it onto a USB, take it in a shop to be printed, sRGB is the most compatible. So that's what we're going to use in this example. We're going to make sure we're on our color profile of sRGB. And if it's not on sRGB, you can just click in here. All your profiles are up the top. These ones down here are all printer profiles or old printer profiles. And we can choose in here. So just make sure you're on this one, the sRGB. That's the one we want for 90% of our prints. Okay, if we want to change our dimensions, so let's just say we want to make this in inches. Okay, we can type in whatever we want. Okay, in this case, I am going to do a 19 by 13 inch print. My resolution's at 300 pixels per inch. Color mode is RGB color. We're on 8 bits. And our color profile, okay, pixel aspect ratio, that shouldn't change. Just leave that on square. So what you see here is pretty much how you want to have it set up. The only thing you might change is your dimensions. Okay, so press OK, and there's our piece of paper. Okay, so there's our photo paper. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag my actual image, and then just with the move tool, click and drag, and if I hold the shift key, that's going to slap it right in the middle of my paper. Okay, so there's my 13 by 19 inch paper with the print on it, and it almost fits, so I don't need to upscale it. I did another video on upscaling, so if you want to print big, there's a few upscaling options. If it's only going to be upscaled by this much, all I do is press Control and T or Command and T for transform, and then we can just stretch it out to make it fit the paper. Okay, and as we can see, it still doesn't quite fit the 13 by 19, so we can just shift this left or right to make it fit. Okay, and this is why I like to do it in Photoshop. I like to actually create my paper first, see if it needs to be cropped, and then I can move it to wherever I want it. Okay, and you know what? In this example, I actually like it with the border. So I'm going to print it with the border around it. Again, Control T. If we want a larger border, just bring it in. Okay, so put it in the middle. I did a preferences video. If you watch my preferences video, you'll see all these grid lines. So if things aren't sort of snapping into position, have a look at my preferences. And we can just resize this however we want. So then we can have a border if we want a border. Okay, I'm going to leave it as it is. Just a little border is enough for this one. And then finally, we're just going to go to layer and flatten image. Now that's ready for print. Okay, so what I'm going to do is save that file. So File, and I'm going to do save as. Okay, I'm going to save it back into, actually, you know what, let's save it in the pictures folder, in that print folder. So there's the one I did in Lightroom. So this one, I'm just going to call it something different. Let's do 19 by 13, print ready. Okay, so this is the one I'm actually going to print. So 19 by 13, just check that your file type is on JPEG. Now down here, just double check that your ICC profile does say sRGB and check that that's ticked. So then we know that we're saving it as an sRGB file. And then hit save. When this box appears, just make sure it's on large file maximum. You don't want to go down to high, you don't want to be down at low, you want it to be on the maximum, the largest file you can. Baseline standard is fine. And then we press OK, and that's it. There's our JPEG. There's our JPEG that is ready for print. Okay, so to back up everything that I've just said, I'm going to send this exact image off to be printed. And what I'll do is I'll show you my print and we'll compare it to how it looks on my monitor. And there's the print. I'll just reflect it in the light, but that's it. Using that method that I've just shown, that's my print. That's how it's coming out of the printer.